Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you today. Look at my color scheme here. We're working on a green and red pinball machine and the wall is green and red. In honor of Luigi and Mario. Check that out. But we're working on this Bally 4 million BC pinball machine for a gentleman who dropped it off with us. It's having issues. And whenever we ended our last video where we did an overview of it, we tried it out a little bit and the thing is tripping. It's got all kinds of stuff going on. Pop bumpers working when they shouldn't be doing it. That's not right. What's up with that? It keeps scoring 10 points. Something's going really loud on the bottom. I don't know what that is. That ain't right. So whenever you have a lot of problems, you know, just several things going on at once, it's time to work through the thing. So we're going to work through this machine and just fix everything at the same time. What happens is these machines, they have tons of relays in them, which are switches, and the things get dirt and dust and stuff all over them where they're no longer adjusted right, or they'd have dirt in between the contacts, or they don't conduct electricity proper. And so you just need to go through them and clean all of the relays, all of the contacts, all of the switches, check out all of the coils, test all the coils, and just go through the whole thing. So that's what we're going to do, and you're going to start watching it in this video. So, the first part that we mess with, now again, if you want, go back and watch our first video where we went through it and looked at every little part of it, went over the artwork a little bit, and then tested it too. Didn't get very far on the test, but we did test it. So go back and watch that if you haven't watched it yet. And while you're here at the beginning of the video, you know this is going to be a great video, so go ahead and give us a thumbs up. You don't need to wait till the end. Only losers wait till the end to give a thumbs up. You know it's going to be good. Why can't I get a thumbs up right now? And somebody the other day left me a comment saying that they don't like my announcer voice whenever I do this. People, this is how I talk in real life. Ask anybody that knows me, okay? The first thing that I'm going to do, the machine is unplugged. We're going to leave it unplugged because we know this thing's tripping. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lift this playfield up out of here and just completely remove it from the machine so that we can get down into the bottom and work on the relays underneath. So let me grab that out. I'm going to go put it in the back room and get it out of the way so nobody messes with it. We're working on these right here in the middle of our showroom, because that's how I like doing it. But I'll pop that out, go put it up, and let's look inside of it with the playfield removed. Okay, so I got that out of the way. Now, let me see. Yeah, it looks like on this one it's pretty easy to get the actual main board up and out of it, so I'm going to actually pull that up too. Just so I can show you that it can be done on yours. I'm going to get the vacuum cleaner. Actually, I think I'll go ahead and pull that up, put it on top of the cabinet so that it's easier to get to all the relays. And then I'm going to get the vacuum cleaner and we'll clean out the cabinet. But to get this thing up, if you look, almost all of it can unplug. Like this is the tilt. This is the coin door. There's something going under there. We'll figure out what in the world that is. This is the knocker. You have to take the power switch loose. There's a little bracket there because it doesn't have a disconnect. But I think that's it. We've already unplugged the playfield, which went in those Jones plugs there. And then there's enough of a harness, of course, since it's down on the bottom. There's enough slack in the power cord that you can get that thing lifted up out of there. There's a couple bolts that hold it with big washers. And then sometimes there will also be a couple screws. Like, see this one? So not just the washers hold it, there's also a couple screws. I don't know why they do that. You'd think they'd just have the washers holding it, but it's not that hard to take out. So I've been doing a little more of that lately. Oh, I think this wire that was caught, it looks like it goes under and then over to here to this flipper switch. I think it was, yeah, looks like it was part of this connector. So we won't have to take that loose. It's just pinched under the board. All right, so let me take those bolts loose and I'll show you what it looks like underneath it all. I did it. I got it up out of there. I'm a real wiener, man. Okay, so now that it's up on the top, we can work on it a lot easier. There was some dirt and stuff down at the bottom. I'm going to vacuum it next. And like I said, there were 2 screws holding it in. Too. I guess they do that so it can't move this way. The bolts keep it from moving side to side, but whatever. No big deal. And you have to take the screws out of this anyway. The power switch. So since you're already doing that, is it really that big of a deal that there's 2 more screws you have to take out? Okay, so we got to fix this thing. So how are we going to do that? Like I said, I'm going to clean it. But then the next thing that I'm going to do is, vacuum it. The next thing I'm going to do is clean all of these switches. Now, if you run across a relay that's starting to look a little burned like that, that does not mean that the relay is necessarily burnt up. It just means that the thing gets hot. If you notice, this is the lock relay. So typically, a lock relay is on the whole time that the game is up and running. So that's why that's brown, because it gets hot if it's on all the time. This is the coin relay. It'll only be on basically when you put coins in. As you actually put them in, whenever you hit start and all that, the coin relay is part of the startup sequence. So it only gets used a little bit, so it hasn't gotten as hot. So it's not as big of a deal. Now, they tried to compensate for that. So see how this one says 31 1800? That means that it's 31 gauge wire. That's small, people. 31 gauge wire, and it's wrapped around this spool 1800 times. So that's how the coil is actually constructed. Now this one is the lock relay. This is a 1971 pinball machine by Bally. Bally is one of the first pinball companies. They had stuff back in the 20s. Probably started before that. Bally had been around a long time. They knew the deal, right? So they had compensated for it a little bit. This one says 33 2800. So 33, it's a little bit thicker wire. 2800, it's longer. So they're trying to make it a little beefier so that it doesn't overheat, but as you can see, it has. Again, you can replace it with a brand new one, but it's just going to do it again. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It could be bad. And then you get something like this. So this is the third ball relay. I'm not really sure what that does, but notice it's black. Well, that one shouldn't be on all the time, so maybe that shouldn't be black. That one might be a problem. Might have some issues there. So that's the kind of stuff you're looking for. You're looking for, are there any of the lugs or burned off or broken? Sometimes they'll snap, which, again, doesn't necessarily mean you have to replace them, but it's just a sign that it might be a good thing to think about. Now, a lot of people, they say, oh, man, that thing's burned up. You'll probably never find one of those. Actually, they're very easy to find. They make them brand new because this one relay, this particular relay, this lock, the whole thing, is in like all the Bally's. This coil is in tons of different games. So there may be 500 of these left in the world, this 4 million BC game. But it's probably the same relay that's in, you know, the previous 15 games and the next 15 Bally games. So with 30 different machines, there's thousands of games that still use that same coil. And some of these coils, like this 31 1800, the coin relay that we were just looking at, well, it's the same as the coin shoot relay. It's the same as the other coin shoot relay. It's the same as the credit relay, and so on and so on and so on. So they make those parts brand new because they can actually still make a profit off of them since they're used in like tons of machines for tons of reasons. You run into the same thing whenever you get to like a, you know that noise I was hearing on the previous video? I'll bet it's this motor, the Volcano motor. Maybe not. We'll see. On these stepper units, a lot of times the step up or step down coils, whichever one, the step up and reset coils, whichever one's which, they'll be the same on every stepper unit as well. So a lot of this stuff they actually do still make brand new. Common problem on these Ballys of this era, we've done 2 or 3 recently, is the fuse holders. Now remember, I've got it unplugged, but you see what's going on here? It's a fuse holder. There's the fuse, and it's kind of holding it, but it's on its last legs, people. That definitely needs to be replaced. See how this one's already been replaced? So look at your fuse holders. I'll show you how we're going to do that here in a minute. I may leave that one since somebody else did it. They did such a great job on it. But these 3 definitely got to go. You can see how this one, while it may still be holding it, it's just a little loose. Definitely needs replaced. Here we had the coin meter. Somebody has cut it off. Let me see who's calling us. If somebody calling about our afterburner. We have an afterburner we're working on. We're going to be doing videos of pretty soon. So look for that coming up. Coin meter. The coin meter is missing, but it's the coin meter is just an output device. You don't. Basically, the machine has no way of telling if it's even in there. All it does is it sends a signal down this path to turn it on for a second to move it one more click to make the number go up. So it's kind of cool if you have it, just because it's neat to see how many times people have played the game, but it's not necessary. It was just for the operator, and it doesn't hurt the function of the game at all. Now, if this wire was to hit this wire, it might. Or if these wires were to short to something, it might. So I'm going to put some tape on it just so it's a little more neat. But it's not something that you need to replace unless you just absolutely want to have one. So why is the coin meter missing? I don't know. But this machine is a re-import. If you watched the first video, we talked a little bit about how an operator had painted some red on the cabinet that's not original. And then also that it takes Frank's, I believe, Frank's. I'm from the South. We don't know. So I would assume this was from France. But guess what I found when I was taking that board out? Hidden underneath it was what I thought was a penny and is not a penny. It is this little sucker. So I'm sure overseas this has very little value. But here we never see anything like this. It says it's a Belgie. It's a Belgie from 1970. 50 centimes, or something like that. So we found a Belgie in it, people. That proves it's a re-import, doesn't it? So this thing was in Europe at one point and made its way back. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get the vacuum cleaner and vacuum out the inside, and then I'm going to carefully vacuum around this a little bit, like, try to get rid of this a little bit and just kind of work my way around them a little. Don't have to get it spick and span. What some people do, if you're doing this as a hobby and you've got plenty of time, I'm charging the guy to work on this, so I can't spend a ton of time on it because, the return on hours spent will not be good for them. But what some people do is they'll unbolt everything on these, and then they'll even take the paper off and reprint the paper, so it's perfect. And if you get back down to the bare wood, you can paint it and make it look brand new and everything, and then carefully put each piece back on. Some people even take all of the mechanics and put it in their dishwasher, run it through the dishwasher to clean it up, let it dry out, and then put it back in the machine. As long as when you turn it on, the stuff's not still wet, really nothing wrong with that. But you would probably have to replace all the wrapper on all of the relays and everything, and we're not going through all that trouble, people. It would take hours and hours and hours. But just giving you an idea if you're one of those people that likes to go above and beyond. So let me vacuum it up a little bit, and then we'll start working through it piece by piece and get everything cleared up. Here come the popo. Wait, I think that's just an ambulance. It's just an ambulance. Okay, folks, I got it vacuumed out. Looks a little bit better. Got rid of all the nastiness. Vacuumed out the bottom of the cabinet. This game, by the way, is in pretty nice shape. It has its 50 years on it, but it's in nice shape for a 50-year-old game. So I'm going to do the fuses, because we know they need to go. I'm going to save this one just out of respect for whatever tech put it on there. That thing's still in good shape. So I'm just going to take these screws loose, and then you can buy these little breakaway fuses. Let me see here. It says bus, like bus man fuses. And the part number is 0003S, I believe it says. Let me look at another one. Maybe that's upside down. Yeah, I think it's upside down. It's S8000, I think. S8000. So these are cool. The only problem you have with these sometimes is some of them it's not easy to solder to. So I think they make two different types. One that you solder to and one that a connector is supposed to fit on. We want the ones that you solder to. So let me swap those real quick. I'm going to just unsolder the line and put one at a time in there and make it look as clean as I can. And then we'll move on from there. Okay, much better. Here's the old one. Look at that. Horrible. Ugh. They used these for quite a while because that Freedom pinball that we had in had the same issue, but it was over on the side. And then the flip-flop that we had had the same issue. So old Bally, you're going to have to replace the fuse holder. It's pretty much a given. So we got those in. The only fuse that was off was this one. It's 10 amp. There was a 15 amp in it. So I put the 10 amp in it. But the other ones are the actual correct ones. So that's that. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to start cleaning through the switches. Now, I keep having people tell me, shouldn't you tighten the switch stacks first? Well, yeah, if they're loose, but look, they're not loose, people. They're not loose. You don't have to tighten the switch stacks. If they're loose, tighten them, but they're not loose. I never see them loose. So the theory is that these bakelite spacers shrink over time, and it makes them all loose, and then they don't close right. I have never seen that. Everybody keeps saying that. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. Maybe in the South it doesn't do that, and in the North it does. That could be it. We're just going to blame it on that. Maybe in Europe it does it, but in the South it doesn't. I have never seen that happen. But if it happens on yours for the first time in recorded history, see if you can get a video of it and post it online to go with my dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of videos where it doesn't do that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through each relay one at a time. Just start at the front or start at the back. Start wherever you would like. And we're going to clean every freaking relay. It sounds like it's a big thing, that it takes forever. It's not that big of a deal, people. It's not that big of a deal. And what we want to do is get the contacts clean right where they touch each other. So basically, you just want to get every relay where if the switch is touching right now, when it pulls in, it should open. And if it's open right now, when it pulls in, it should touch. So see that first switch there? So when the relay turns on, this is a magnet, right? It will pull this little thing in. And on that first one where it's closed, it should open it like that. And you can just play with it a little bit. It's going to do this 10 million times. You're not going to wear it out doing it like this. Now you don't want to push on this or push on the switch. You want to push on the plate right where it's going to pull in, right? And see how the switch consists of two blades. There's a long one and a short one. See how when I do that a few times, you actually see the small blade move as well. See how it's barely moving? When the big blade gets to it, it pushes it a little bit. That's when you got it adjusted right. You want it to move it just slightly. If it doesn't move it, it may not be touching it, even though it looks like it's touching it. So the second one here, see how it's normally open? And then when I close it, is it moving it? It's moving it just barely, but you can barely tell. So you might say, well, I need to adjust that one. No, you don't need to adjust that one. If it's touching or it's moving it at all, leave it alone. You can try to adjust it and get a little bit closer, but you're going to screw it all up. If you go through and adjust all of these, you will have problems. You'll create problems where there are none. So if it's close and it looks like I just saw, that one is moving. You can barely tell, but it's moving. Right? So that's good enough. Leave it alone. This one, it's obviously moving. And the fourth one, it's moving. So those four are properly adjusted. This one's questionable, but we're going to leave it because I can barely see it moving. Right? And we're going to clean those four. Now, after you clean them, I'm doing this backwards because I didn't show you me cleaning them, but you want to do that after you clean them, because as you clean them, you're going to maybe mend something. So how do you clean them? Well, the guy before me was cleaning them with this little piece of paper. See how there's a little folded up piece of paper? See the dirt on it there? That's because the guy's been cleaning contacts with it. So the old school way was they used a business card to do it, right? But back in the day, these things only had a few years on them. It's got 50 years on it now, right? So what I use is I use a file, but I use a really worn out file. It has hardly any kind of abrasiveness to it at all. You can get a contact burnisher. All of these things can be bought all over Amazon. Go check it out. And if you go to Amazon, by the way, if you're going to buy anything on Amazon, a car or a contact burnisher, big, expensive, or small and cheap, click my link down below to Amazon. Because if you go to Amazon, after you click that link to buy something, it gives me a tip. So I get a little piece of Jeff Bezos' money. Now, I'm not getting paid for doing this. Well, I am getting paid for doing this. I'm not getting paid from you for doing this. So we appreciate everybody that's been doing that on Amazon for us. Okay, that's trash. So I'm going to use a little worn out file. You can see that the gentleman had a little sleeve from the Hilton Hotel way back in October of 2018, I mean. He's been trying to clean up this pinball machine. But I'm going to use a little file, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to hit every one of those switches. And then after I do that, we're also going to do the same thing to these switch stacks on the score motor, but we'll talk about that separately. And then we'll pretty much, our main things left will be the two stepper units there. That one is a motor unit. That'll be really interesting. We don't see those too often. So let me start cleaning switches. If I run into anything that looks weird or burn up or damaged, I'll come back and show it to you. But if not, I'll be back in a minute with all of that done. Alright, so I went through and cleaned all of them, and I'm going to show you how to check the coils to see if they're bad. Okay? And then I thought I would also show you what the names of all of these coils are, just because it's interesting. So, Volcano eject, Volcano hole, kind of gives you an idea of what the game's going to be like. Close the flippers, the ball release coil, the out hole, the third ball, the tilt, the reset relay, the player reset relay, the credit relay, the coin chute, third coin chute, second coin chute, the coin relay, and the lock relay. This one is the game over interlock relay. And then over here we have the erupt volcano relay, the advance ball, the open flippers target relay, the close flippers target relay, and the tar pit interlock relay. So an interlock relay, I'll show you on this one, you can see it a little better. An interlock relay is one that goes both ways. So if this one pulls in, right, it allows this to release, which connects the switches that way. And then if this one pulls in, it locks it in place because the spring pulls this back out to hold it in place. So it will stay with this connected, this open, and that connected until this coil pulls in. And then it flips the other way. So those are very useful, right? But if you have a coil that's like looking like this one looks pretty bad, doesn't it? Well, here's how you can tell. Usually, I'm talking in generalities, there are exceptions to every rule, but usually a coil doesn't wear out. It won't be like weak or anything like that. Usually it works or it doesn't work. So the reason that you would not replace that is because that's not wearing out. It's been overheated a little bit, but in general it's going to work just as good as it's ever worked, or it's not going to work at all. There's a little bit of exception to that. Sometimes if it's real noisy, if you replace the coil, because it's basically if you get where it can't cleanly pull this, like if there's dirt all over the, or rust all over the little metal plate, it'll buzz and things like that. So sometimes, you want to replace it for that. But in general, it either works or it doesn't. Now, the way that, if a coil is just a big long section of wire wrapped around a spool. And so when power goes through that, it creates a magnet, which is what pulls the plate in. Okay, so that's how they work. So the way you test them is you're checking to see if the resistance from one end of the wire to the other end of the wire wrapped around the spool is really low or really high. So you don't need to know what it's supposed to be. If you find one that is less than about 2 ohms or so resistance, then it's probably shorted. Really powerful coils will have a low resistance near that, so you might get like a flipper coil that has 1.8 ohms resistance or something like that, but it's pushing the line, because if you get the resistance down too low, it'll blow a fuse. So if you have a fuse blowing in your machine, it's probably one of these. It's a short somewhere, and it may be that one of these coils is shorted. So if by shorted, what it means is, and it literally, instead of having a long path for the power, which on this one is 2,800 revolutions of 33 gauge wire, instead of having 2,800 revolutions, if something happens to this where it heats up hot enough, it will melt the coating off the wire. The wire is wrapped in coating so it can be on top of itself, but not be touching, because there's a coating in between, right? Well, if it gets hot enough, it can melt that, and then wire's touching the wire after 10 revolutions or something. So that's a short. So it makes it where the wire is shorter, right? And you can measure that with resistance on your multimeter. And then the other thing that can happen is the wire can break in there somewhere. Usually it's up right as it comes out of the coil. See the little wires? Usually it just breaks loose there. If the wire breaks, then whenever you check resistance, it'll be either open or it'll be really, really high, 1,000 ohms or higher. I don't think I've ever seen one in a pinball machine higher than that was still working how it's supposed to. So you don't really need to know what it's supposed to be. You just need to check and see if any of them are weird. So for instance, and also, even if you've got 2 that are exactly alike, this is the exact same coil number, what happens is if you check it while it's in the machine, well, there's other stuff connected. So it could be one of the switches on the score motors connected, which is sending power to it or whatever. So sometimes when you get one that's shorted where it's really low, it's because it's turned on. So one that is on will have a really low resistance too, because the power is connected and you're basically just measuring across the transformer. I wonder if it would show you that. I don't know which one's which, but on a transformer sometimes you have a really low resistance. Yeah. So 0.4 ohms across those 2 lugs of the transformer. So if the coil is turned on while the machine's unplugged, like if it's whatever switch turns this on is connected, then basically this will say 0.4 ohms or whatever. It'll show a really low thing. So sometimes when you have one that has a low resistance, it's because it's supposed to be pulling in right now. Okay, but with it turned off, in general, if you get a weird one, you can check. So like, usually I have two hands to do this with. My probe is bent. Bent probe. So this coil, 99 ohms resistance. In an EM, that's very typical. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that one, even though it was ugly. Okay, this one, 42 ohms resistance. Now you might say, oh, that one's burning up. Nope. You don't. They're all different. I mean, if you're below 2 or you're higher than about 1,000, you got issues. So that one's fine. I'm not going to replace it. Now, when we play the game, we may find out that it's not fine, but best I can test, it's fine. Now look at this one. Boy, it don't look good at all, does it? 42 ohms resistance. That one's fine. So you can go through and check all of them. If you're blowing fuses, that very well could be your problem. But I can't find any on this one that are burn up on this bottom board. Now when we get to the back box, I think we're going to have a different story. I also went through and I cleaned all these switches. These are kind of tricky to get to some of those. So good luck with that. You can get your little contact cleaner in there, kind of diagonal. And it's different for every maker. I think the easiest ones are the Gottlieb ones that have the flat plate where you can just go down and around. On these, you're rarely going to have a problem with the switches in down low. If you have a problem, usually it'll be these switches on the top. Because what will happen is somebody goes to put the manual or something in the game and they hit one of these switches on the top and bend it a little bit. And so it'll be bent up too high. And then what I always like to do is to turn the thing around. Watching these. And just see if it's connecting like it should. And it's the same thing. You want the smaller blade to move a little bit whenever the larger blade hits it. So that's all fine. Everything is cool. So let's look at this stepper unit here. This is the ball count unit. It's only got 4 little fingers on it. The first finger is on the very first rivet as of right now. On the previous video, we actually tried to start it. So basically, you want it to be able to step up every time you pull one of the coils in, and you want it to reset when you pull the other coils in. Now, sometimes you'll get one like, see, I just stepped that one all the way up. Okay, that's as far as it will go. And then if I reset it, it resets all the way back to the beginning. But sometimes you'll get one where it won't reset if it's not all the way up. So as it goes up, it's tightening that spring, that clock spring there. So if you're only up a couple steps, that spring may not be tight enough to make it go all the way back to the beginning if it's not clean enough, right? So we're on position number 2 right now. Let's see if it'll reset. Yeah, so this one's pretty good. But I don't like how clean the rivets look, so I'm going to clean those up, get them a little shinier. And that'll be that. Now on this side, a lot of times you'll have these little switches in there that are hard to get to. And you got to get it just right. Where, yeah, see, this one's bent actually. That doesn't look right, does it? Like that shouldn't be. See how this is way over from here? So I'm going to have to look at and see what that even is, but that shouldn't be like that. Someone has bent it. It should be more like that. Okay? So I'm going to have to look. They've basically bent it where that never opens, and it should. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff you're looking at. So I'm gonna actually research that and see what that does. It's the ball count unit. When it resets, that opens, but the other one never opens. Okay, well, let's look it up. I said I'd show you if I ran into anything weird. The wire. Is maybe gray and yellow on that switch, and then the other wire is maybe red and orange. That's my guess. Let me go see if I can find it on the schematics. That's a game in the background yelling. Nobody's actually fighting in the back of my store. So gray and yellow, brown and red they're calling it. Ball count unit 0. So what that's saying is that the 0 position, that should be open. So somebody has obviously bent it out of the way so that it never opens. Okay, so that's to the credit relay. And if you look, here's the credit button. So that's the start button on the front of the machine. So it's basically set up so that if you hit the credit button, the start button, and the credit unit is not at 0, so there's a credit on the machine, normally if the ball count unit is not at 0, like a game has been played, so it's at 3 or 4 or whatever it ends at, 3 or 5 or whatever, this will be shut, and so you can start a game. So I don't know why they would make it where that opens at 0 though. I guess so you can't, it's so that you can't hit start. It's so that if your game starts, you can't hit start again. And take another credit, I guess. So whatever. So someone has bent that out of the way. It's not going to hurt the game or anything. They're just making it where it's easier to hit the credit relay. This coin unit limit switch, since they set the thing on free play, this must be one of the things that they felt like they had to do. So that it's on free play. So I think I'm going to leave it like that because I don't think it's hurting anything. And if they may have something else rigged up to where if I close that, it'll make it where sometimes the game doesn't start. So no harm, no foul. It's just something to do with the credit. And it's on free play, so let's leave it. All right, back to the machine. Okay, so I cleaned that up, put it back together. Everything looks cool. And the last thing really on this bottom transformer board, mech board, is the Volcano motor unit. Now this is only in this game, it looks like. So I'm wondering, it looks like there is a motor that constantly spins this. And then you hit a button and the coil catches it. It probably goes this way actually. And then however it catches it, see how there are several fingers, but one of them is always on one of these wires. So see, that one is on position number 2 right now. And then when it gets around to it has moved off of the last position, the next one is down on position number 1. So I think this probably runs the whole time. That's probably the noise I was hearing whenever I turned it on. Hear how it's kind of noisy. So I'm going to look in the manual and see what's supposed to turn that. Let's see if that's supposed to turn all the time. I imagine it is. Okay, so here's the Volcano motor. So the entire time that the motor is on, the Volcano release coil is on as well. So that's that one we were looking at, the little brake thing. And it is held on through a switch on the Volcano eject relay. So if the Volcano eject relay isn't doing its thing, presumably because there's no ball in the saucer, that switch is closed and the motor's running. And then what powers it is the Volcano hole relay. There's also this resistor here that I'll bet isn't enough to turn it on, but is enough to hold it on, or something like that. That's my guess. I don't know, though. But we'll see. But it looks like it doesn't run all the time, just while there is a ball in the Volcano hole. So the Volcano hole relay is right here. What makes it start is the ball being in the Volcano hole. And once the ball is landed in there, it holds itself on through the Volcano, through a switch on itself, Volcano hole relay. So I think what happens is the ball sits in there, and then there must be some way to get it to eject. So the Volcano eject relay, erupt Volcano relay, erupt Volcano relay, erupt Volcano. Close flipper, solenoid and a stroke switch. I'll bet there's a way you hit a button and it pops the ball out. Should we cheat and look on the playfield? Maybe we cheat and look on the playfield. Okay, so I looked on the playfield and it doesn't. It said that basically you shoot the ball in there and then you erupt the Volcano by hitting another switch, which is probably has something to do with how the multi-ball starts. So we'll figure that out whenever we get later on. So I don't know if the motor is supposed to run the whole time, but if we clean everything and get all of the relays doing their thing, it ought to do whatever it's supposed to do. So stay tuned for that. I'm sure a bunch of you have played it before and already know what it's supposed to do, but you know what? By the time this video's up, I've probably already completely finished the game and figured it out for myself. So we'll see. But yeah, that's kind of interesting. Okay, so I'm going to clean those contacts on the Volcano motor thing, and then we're going to put the entire board back down in the machine. Okay, so taking the spider off, there's a little bit of like a slip clutch on it. So it mounts on there like this, and the motor can turn. And this wheel definitely turns because it has the key there, right? And then there are these three little raised bumps. And then there is this that fits on it. And this is made of, I don't know. If I had to guess, I'd say that's leather. That kind of fits on there, so it's always attached to that. But it's, you know, leather can slip. So this, I can't tell what that's made of. Plastic. So the motor can continue to turn, and that will slip against this while this doesn't turn, which will be important for scoring and stuff like that. I think one of the things that it does is it makes lights come up at different values, and whenever you hit the switch, it kicks the ball out, and whatever light is lit, that coil releases, stops the cog, and whatever light is illuminated by these fingers, you score that many points. So I don't know though if the motor turns the entire time, or if it just turns while the ball's in the hole. I guess the ball lands in the hole, and it stays there, and then it kicks out another ball for you, and then you start playing, and then if you hit this switch, and while the ball's in the hole, the lights are lighting up, and then this is turning. Or probably this way. Because that has just enough grit to turn, to hold to that and turn. You notice there was a spring at the end too that kind of keeps pressure where that's touching that. And then whenever you hit the switch that you're supposed to hit to erupt the volcano, it makes the coil let go. It stops the motor. Bam! It immediately stops this. And I guess this is so that while that I don't know. We're going to figure it out, people. We'll put it together and then we'll play it in a later video. But I thought you might want to see that. There's some sort of slip clutch action going on here. So I'll clean this up a little bit. We'll pop it back on there. Okay, folks, so I am satisfied that everything down in here is in good condition, is cleaned, works the way it's supposed to, or I believe it will. I think everything is as good as we can get it. What am I seeing here? I think we're good. Okay. So I think everything is as good as we can get it. We got our new fuses in. We cleaned everything. We cleaned all of these relays. Look at all those. We cleaned all those back there. The couple that looked charred, we checked with the multimeter. They do not appear to be burned up. We found one switch on the ball count unit, but the purpose of the switch is just whether or not you can hit the start button. Since the thing is on free play, it's set where you can start a game at any time, so anything that affects when you can and can't start a game, I'm not really all that concerned with, so I left it because I think it might be one of the ways they were making it be on free play. And then the Volcano unit appears to be just fine. I cleaned the Jones plugs, the few that are like the coin door and things like that. But on this era of Bally, they're pretty clean anyway. I guess I could show you that. So this is like where the knocker plugs in. I mean, I cleaned them a little bit, but they're pretty clean. Just to begin with. So, I don't believe we've found any major problems yet, But now we know that it's nothing in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it back on and see if anything blows up. And then we'll try to start a game and see if that noise I was hearing, if it's just the motor. So we'll turn it on here. Okay. So the transformer is on, I guess. That's that. You can hear a slight buzz. If you look, none of the relays are pulled in yet. And because of that, none of the lights are on. But on most of these pinball machines, they wired it so that if you hit the left switch, it turns everything on. See how there are two switches on the left flipper? And there's only one switch on the right flipper? That's because one of these switches turns on the lights. That's interesting. So the reason that hitting the button didn't turn on the lock relay is because the lock relay is turned on with the left flipper button, but only if the score motor is in the home position where that's closed. But if you look, it appears that on the score motor, the only way to get most games when you turn them on, the score motor starts turning until it gets back to its home position. But it looks like the only way you get the score motor to turn on this is if the Volcano eject relay is on. It's not. The ball release relay is on. It's not. The out hole relay is on. It's not. The reset relay is on. It's not. The second coin shoot relay is on. It's not. Or the coin relay is on. And then it can also get power through the third coin shoot relay. Or if this switch is over here. I'll bet that switch is not adjusted right. 1E on the schematic. That switch must be messed up. Okay, so the home switch, the reason it's not working is because the motor's unplugged. Whenever I was working on this, I unplugged the wire that goes to the motor accidentally. So let me plug that back on, and that should make this go back to the home position. Okay, so basically, since that wasn't on, this, I had been messing with this, you know, cleaning everything and checking it. You saw whenever I was turning up my hand. Well, without that plugged in, it couldn't move at all on its own. So now if you are in the wrong spot when you turn the machine on, it puts it back to its place that it's supposed to be. Okay. And so since it's at its home position, now if I hit the switch, much better. Okay, so I'm going to start it and see if it goes, if it resets the 10 and then gives us the 10 back. And if anything, I don't have the playfield in it, so we don't have to worry about the pop bumper burning up or anything. Let's see if it'll do anything. Okay, so whatever is making it score 10 points is on the playfield, apparently. And also, the Volcano motor must not turn the whole time because it's not turning right now. Now, I do keep hearing something going, whoa, but I think it's probably the, the score motor winding down or something. All right, so there we go. So we've got everything in here, I believe, working properly. But you know what happened the last time I said that? And we've determined that it resets to 0, and then it doesn't give us the 10 points if the playfield's not in there. So something on the playfield is making it give us an extra 10 points. Probably has something to do with that pop bumper that's coming on its own. So that'll give us a place to start next time. So on the next video, we're going to do the back box. So we'll go in there and get all of that right. There's some stuff burnt, slapped the hell up in there. So I'm going to have to order some parts for that. But or actually, you know what? I think I've got a bunch of parts for that, so we may be all right. I think we'll see. So join us next time for that. Leave your comments down below. Let us know what you think so far. I'm trying to show you every little part of this machine because this is a real classic. And if you end up with a 4 million BC down the road and you want to work on it, hopefully by us going through every little thing to get one that's problematic to working perfectly, you can retrace our footsteps and get yours doing the same thing. So leave your comments below. Let us know what you think. Make sure to check out our website. Go to lionsarcade.com. Up at the top, it says games for sale. It's all of our games that we have available for sale right now. But there's also a parts page where you can find links to all of the like the little tools and stuff that we use whenever we work on these. If you need anything like that. And then we also have some of our merchandise on there, like t-shirts and coffee mugs and all of that good stuff if you want to support the channel. And some of that stuff's on Amazon. If you click our link down below to go to Amazon, if you're planning on buying anything on Amazon, whether it is a piece of a ream of paper for your printer or a Porsche, anywhere in between there, if you click our link before you go to Amazon, it gives us a tip for sending you there because we just sent you to Amazon. So we appreciate everybody that's been doing that. And then also, finally but not last, make sure to check out my brother Donnie, who is literally my brother Donnie. So it's our brother channel here on YouTube, my brother Donnie. The link is down below. He and I are usually working on old buildings in a small town near here. So if you like watching us work on these old pinball machines, you might enjoy watching us work on those old buildings. So I'll see you over there on that channel too. But join us next time for the next video on this. It'll probably be up tomorrow or maybe 2 days from now, but we always try to do them in order. And rest assured, if you're seeing this video, it's because I've already fixed the whole thing. I don't like uploading them until I get everything done, because the worst thing, and I've done it a couple times, I don't want to do it. The worst thing is if you put up a video and then you never put up the next part of it. You know. So I like having them all done ahead of time and in the can, so to say, so that you can be sure that we're going to finish it up. So we'll see you on the next video where we get a little bit further down the road on it. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.